So the examples you've probably seen of that are going to be IX and then IV. So IX, that case X is the bigger value, which is 10. So what I'm going to do is from 10, subtract I, which is 1. So IX is really representing the number 9. If I have IV, V is 5, I is 1. So that tells me take that smaller value and subtract it from the bigger. This is going to be 4. Okay. So it's also very precise about which numerals you can subtract from the other. I can't take V and subtract it from X because that would just land me back at V. So really what happens if you have a 9 or a 4, that's going to be represented in this particular form. Because if I had to write 4 and I had to write 4 of these I's out, it's a lot. Same thing if I have to write 40, having 4 X's is a lot. So instead 40 would be I take L and I subtract 10. So XL would be 40, okay? So anytime you have a 4 or a 9 in a place value, that's when you're going to have to do this method. So only these numerals 1, 10, 100, and 1,000 can be subtracted to be able to get a 4 or a 9. And you can only subtract it from the next higher two. So 1 can be subtracted from 4 or from 5 and 10 to give you 4 and 9. But I'm not going to do 1 from 50 to give me 49. I would write that in a different way. Okay. So here, just to kind of show you, 1, which is I, can be subtracted from the next highest two. So what that means is I can write IV and I can write IX. IV is going to be 5 minus 1, which is 4. And IX is 10 minus 1, which is 9. The next value that I can subtract is going to be that value for 10. And I only can subtract it from L or C. So I can write XL and I can write XC. XL would mean from 50 we remove 10, which gives me 40. And from 100 we remove 10, which gives me 90. So again, it gives me that placeholders for 4 and 9 in the tens, where these are the placeholders of 4 and 9 in the ones. The next value that I can subtract from others is going to be 100. And again, I can only subtract it from the next two values. So it's only going to make sense for me to write CD and CM. CD would be 500 minus 100, which gives me 400. And CM would be 1,000 minus 100 to give me 900. So this gives me placeholders of 4 and 9 in the 100s positions. So when we're going to write in Roman numerals, you just have to keep an eye. Do you have a 4 or 9? Okay, if I do, I have to write that with subtraction instead, okay? So we're going to try a few examples where we're going to write as a Hindu Arabic numeral, and then we're going to take that Hindu Arabic and write it as a Roman numeral. So starting with this first one, let's see, actually, don't know if I can copy this, but it'd be nice if I could copy this full thing. Let's see. Might not let me because, yeah, that's all right. We'll just recopy it right here to have it. So going through each of these values, this is I, V, X, L, C, D, and M. So this is just helpful so we don't have to keep scrolling up while we're trying to learn these for the first time. So if I look in order, we've got C, then we've got L, X, V, I. So thankfully, these are all decreasing. So I don't need to do anything special here, okay? So going through each of these, the C is going to be 100. Then the L is 50. Next up is X, which is 10. Then we've got V, which is 5. And then finally, 2 I's is really 2. So adding these all together, this is 167 in Roman numerals. Okay. If I look at this next one, starting with M, that's definitely my biggest. However, if I compare C and M, those are not decreasing. So I'm going to have to do something special for these. And likewise, if I compare X and C, that is also not in decreasing order. So I got to do something different here too. But then looking at VI, good. I'm good with that. It's decreasing. So here, kind of comparing each of these pieces, starting with M, that is 1,000. But now for this, CM means I'm going to take 1,000 and subtract the 100. So M is 1,000 and we subtract C, which is 100. Then looking at XC, comparing those, from C, which is 100, I'm going to subtract 10. Okay. And then last up, we've got V, which is 5, and a single I, which is 1. So this is really 1,000 plus 995 and a 1. So this gives us the number 1996. Okay. Let's try the opposite now. Let's write it in Roman numeral given that Hindu Arabic. So again, just going to bring this down to make life a little easier for us. Okay. So I want to pay attention in the numbers if I have any 4s or 9s, and thankfully I don't, so I don't need to do anything special, which is amazing. So instead, what I'm going to have to do is break this down based on these values. So it'll make sense to start just by splitting it with placeholders. I've got 200, I've got 70, and then I've got 8. 200 I can do, that's 2 100s. However, 70 I can break down further based on 50s and 10s. Because I don't want to, again, sit there and write 7 X's. That's a lot. The cutoff is really 3 is the most of any one value you can write. The second you hit 4, you switch over to do that subtraction. So what I really need to do is break that down further. Okay. So 200, I'll kind of do this step by step. We know we can do that. That's 2 C's. Then the 70 I need to break down as a 50 and then as a 20. The 50 is represented by an L and the 20 is 2 X's. Because again, I do not want to write 7 X's. 3 is the most of any one symbol. Okay. And then likewise, I can do the same thing with the 8. I don't want to write 8 I's. Instead, I'm going to take away 5, and then I'm left with 3. So really, we're going to have a +5 and a +3. The 5 is represented by a V, and the 3 is 3 I's. So you can condense it just as a single value. Okay. If we try this next one, here we do have a little bit of a tricky situation because I do have that 9 in this. So I'm still going to start the same way and break it by placeholders. We've got 2,796. Just for some space, bring these down as well. From up there, don't need that. Now again, each of these I want to break down further because 700 I can write in terms of 500. So that's 2,000, and that breaks down to 1/500, and that leaves me with 200 left. Okay. Then we've got the 90, and 9 is special. I do not need to break that down as 50 and 40, but I do need to break down the 6 as a 5 and a 1. So going through piece by piece, 2,000 is going to be 2 M's. Then 500 is going to be a single D. 200 is 2 C's. Now 90 is the one I have to write special. That deals with 100 minus 10. So the way I would write that is XC. I put them out of order. Then we've got a single 5, which is V, and then a single 1, which is I. Okay. So this is that number in Roman numerals. Okay. Next up, we've got the traditional Chinese numeration system. And theirs is actually really nice. It's also some symbols that'll be used to help us. It's kind of like the Mayans where it's broken down vertically. And it's also broken down based on placeholders of zeros, tens, ones, and 1,000s. The really nice thing is you don't actually need a placeholder for 0. Because what you're going to do, if you want to write 600, you're going to say you have 6 100s, okay? So what I'm going to do for this is a couple examples to start. We're going to move this out of the way. Just wanted to make sure we had that picture to utilize this. So I'm going to go ahead and break this down again based on placeholders. And I'm going to do it vertically this time because the Chinese numeration writes it vertically. So we have 3,264. So broken it down based on placeholders. This means we have 3 1,000s. We have 2 100s. We have 6 10s. And then we have 4 1s. Okay. So what we do to write this is I start with my symbol for 3, which is right here. So it is a big line, little line, big line. And then I put the symbol for thousands underneath it. So that tells me I have 3,000. Okay. So 3,000 again is represented by this. Then if I move on to 200, I start with my symbol for 2, which is a small line, followed by a big line. And then my symbol for 100s, which looks like this. So I have a flat bar, a curve, and then a box with a swoop in it. So this is saying I have 2 100s. Then for 60, I have 6 10s. So I draw my symbol for 6, which looks like this, followed by my symbol for 10s, which is kind of like a cross. Okay. And then finally, I have 4 at the end, which looks like this little window here. I don't need to write ones because 4 is just ones. Okay. So this is that Chinese numeration system. To show you how nice it is because of not needing placeholders for 0, if you want to do 806, You again break it down on those placeholders. You have 800. You have no 10s, so I don't need to write anything. My next number is really just 6. So you have 8 100s and then a 6. So going through those different symbols, 8 looks like this. And then our symbol for 100s is kind of like a TNT box. Okay. And then we put our symbol for 6, which is right here. So that looks like a curve, straight line, and 2 curves. So it's great. I need absolutely no placeholder for 0 in this because I have a symbol for the placeholder itself. So let's try an example where we're going to go ahead and we're going to be given the Chinese numeral, and we want to go ahead and write it as a Hindu Arabic numeral. So let me pull this just down here. So what I do is the same kind of thing. I need to pick off what each of these mean. So the first one is the symbol for 1. The next symbol, comparing it on my chart, is my symbol for 1000s. So that really means we have 1 1000. Next up, we've got this symbol, which is 4. And then the symbol after that is the symbol for 100s. So it means we have 4 100s. Then moving on, that is representing 7. This symbol is our 10s, so it means we have 7 10s. And then last but not least, ran out of colors, we have this symbol here, which is 5. So that is our 1s position. So we really have 1,475. Okay. So hopefully that's a nice system, not too terrible for you. I think it's much better than Roman numerals, that's for sure. So our very last system we're going to cover is the Ionic Greek numeration system, but we're only going to cover the numbers 1 through 99. This one's really nice because they basically have given us a Greek letter for each digit in every single placeholder up to 999. So we've got alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, val, zeta, eta, and theta representing the digits 1 through 9. Then moving on for the tens place, you have iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, and Koph. And I could totally be mispronouncing some of these, so apologize if I am. Then moving on to that 100 symbol, we've got rho, sigma, tau, epsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega, and sampi. So all you're going to do in the case of the Ionic Greek number system is you write those symbols next to each other to represent the number itself. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add this photo in here to just make it a little bit simpler. So this allows me just to kind of draw on it, but kind of comparing each of these. If I look at this first digit, that is going to be sampi. Okay, so that's really representing 900. Then our next digit here is going to be our chi, our psi. So that's going to be 60. And then last up, looking at this symbol, that is going to be our delta, which is 4. So this is really 964. Okay. So again, you'll have this base computer generated. It's not hand drawn. It'll be pretty straightforward because unfortunately there are symbols that look together or look similar because pi and sampi are kind of similar to each other. But you can also kind of make guesses because here this has to be, you have 3 digits. It's going to make sense for the first one to be the hundreds, then the tens, and then the ones. So looking at this next example, if I look at each of these, this will have to come from the hundreds place. So that is going to be chi. So this is 600. Then the next spot is going to be lambda, which is 30. So 630. And then this B is going to be beta, which is 2. So this is 632. When it gets to there just being 2 digits, then again, that's where you kind of have to just real closely pay attention. If I look for this symbol in the 10 spot, I have absolutely nothing that looks like it. So moving on to the hundreds position, that first symbol is definitely going to be omega. So that is 800 to start with. Now this position can be either the ones or the tens. So looking through, I've got nothing here that looks like it. So going into the ones, that is going to be eta. So I have nothing from my tens position, and then 8 in my ones position. Okay, so this is the number 808. So this is another one that it's not too bad to actually write in Ionic Greek. So we're going to try some examples of that, and then we are really done with all of these numbering systems. So breaking this down, this is 141. Picking what each of these are, starting with 100, that is going to be rho. So that looks like this. Then we've got 40 in the next spot, which is mu. So mu looks like that. And then 1 in the 1 spot, that is going to be alpha. So this is rho, mu, alpha. Moving on to 358, again, breaking that down, you have 300 plus 50 plus 8. 300 is going to start with tau. So tau kind of looks like this. It's got a small kick at the end. Right. Then next one is going to be 50. So that's going to be nu. So it kind of looks like a stretched V. And last but not least, our 8 is going to be eta. So looks like this in Ionic Greek. So this was a taste of just some of these different numbering systems that are out there that have been used in different civilizations throughout time. There's a ton more that you can look into, but this is a nice sampling for now.